This is the Leo Clamaco Podcast.
Welcome to the Leo Clamaco Podcast. I'm your host, Leo. Today we have an extremely special guest, Sergeant Kamille Torres. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm really happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Let's talk about you, who you
Okay.
are, how did you become a sergeant? Let's get
Okay.
into it. Go for it.
Okay, well, as you guys just saw, my name is Kamille Torres. I joined the Army off of impulse. I decided to not let my parents go through college debt, so I was like, let's go to the military. Senior year, I was like, let's do it, and my mom was like very happy about it. She, was definitely for it, and I was very surprised that she
You
was
weren't scared?
No, I'm not easily scared.
Okay.
I guess in the moment, I feel like I felt it. Once I was in basic training, I was
Right.
like, okay, now it hit me. Before that, even though in processing, when I went to MEPS, when I did the whole shabam, like I did everything, I was not nervous at all.
How old were you?
I was 17.
You were 17 when you joined, and you
It's
weren't
normal, though.
scared.
It's normal though. I think it's normal for kids.
How is that normal?
I mean, I've met a lot of my soldiers right now. They actually join at 17. 17, 18 is like the normal age.
Did you join
Especially right
that,
after
what's
high
that called?
school. ROTC?
ROTC.
No, I didn't.
You're not.
I actually did not think I was going to join the military throughout high school. It was, when I tell you, it was super last minute. Senior year, 2 months before graduating, my plan was to go Marines, and then somehow, some way, I was praying about it, and I ended up joining the Army. And then that's when
What year was this?
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
What about the Army in particular enticed you? Why not the Navy or the Marines or the Air Force?
To be honest with you, my goal was to join to finish college the first 4 years.
Okay.
I was thinking about, my goal was to do the first 20 years and have that pension. That's why I started with the first 4 years. And unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. They tell you that you are able to start school right after basic training before you join.
Right.
And that's not the case always, unless if you're already enrolled. But if you're not already enrolled, then they'll make you wait a year.
So the government's lying to you automatically, huh?
Not necessarily. I don't think it's
I'm
the
saying
government.
that, not
you have to wait a year before you go to school.
Okay.
Which now I learned that that's not the case. You could still go to school. I mean, the point of it all is for you to focus on, your job. And because you're so fresh in the Army as a private, you want to focus on your job and learning the skills that
Right.
they teach you. But if you are able to manage both, then by all means go ahead. But I think that's mainly the goal. But I don't necessarily agree with that, because once a year goes by and you start seeing your job and how the routine is, you kind of get away from college. You
bet.
more focus on like being better
You're
at
all
the
in.
job. Yeah, you're all in.
Yeah.
You want to go to school, like airborne school, air assault. Like you're motivated, and you see other people or other soldiers want to be just top notch. But
Right.
I half and half, because school is very important, and you really can't take air assault school, airborne school, ranger, like outside the military. Like that's
Right.
all like inside the military, but you can take
It's
school.
the perks, right?
Yeah, it is perks, and it helps you become decorated in the military. But
So which
school-
route did you go? Did you go to school or did you go to
So
Army school? Right.
both. So I went. So I started with college. I went to University of Maryland.
So you waited that 1 year and then you went to school after?
Yes.
Okay.
And then once I started school, I joined the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier back in 2020.
Okay.
So I had to stop school.
Hold on.
Okay.
Explain to us what that is.
So the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is a place, a honorable place where there's soldiers called tomb guards that guard the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which is World War I, World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam. And these soldiers are unknown soldiers that were picked to represent each war.
How are they chosen?
They were chosen.
By their bravery?
So they're chosen randomly because they are unknown. So we don't know who these
Got it.
soldiers are, right?
Got it.
So highly decorated soldiers, they're given the opportunity to select the unknown in their time. So World
Got
War
it.
I, a enlisted men, each war was an enlisted men that select an unknown. But yeah, there's like a whole story behind it, definitely. But
So what's your role there? What do you do there?
So I'm a tomb guard. I am a tomb guard. I'm a sentinel. I went through training that lasted. So training normally, when you try out for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, it's basically 6 to 9 months. That's the ideal training. I went through the training during COVID, so it definitely lasted longer than expected. But that's because everything was like shut down for sure. The cemetery was shut down. It was very difficult to pass training when, we couldn't even see the other platoons or the other leadership to even have me pass. But once the cemetery got back open, we were able to get that back at rolling. So typically it's 6 to 9 months for the training. And yeah, once you pass training, you're a Sentinel. And Sentinel, I am currently the 6th female since 1937.
Wow.
So 6 female that graduated.
Hold on. There have only been 6 females chosen since 1937. Wow. Congratulations.
So the badge came out in 1958, but the military soldiers started guarding in 1937.
Is that the badge that you're wearing currently?
Yes. It's a very difficult badge to get. It's one of the rarest badges in the Army to actually achieve and earn. But yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Actually, I want to put this out there.
Go for it.
There's actually the first infantry woman, I call her PFC Sky, but she is the first infantry woman that has entered the platoon, and she was able to pass all 4 training tests, and now she's going to take badge tests soon. And when she passes badge test, she'll be the 7th, which I'm very proud of her because, I was there when she was actually in training. So
that's amazing. Let's clap for that. Fantastic. So break down training for us. What were those 6 to 9 months like? What did you endure? What did you go through?
So it's a standard procedure with everyone. Everyone is treated the same. There's a tryout cycle where if you want to volunteer, it's a 3-tier volunteer kind of cycle. So you first volunteer for the Army, then you volunteer for the Old Guard, and then you volunteer for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It's all volunteer based now. So basically, once you are in the Old Guard and you've been there for about a year, then you're eligible to try out for the yes. And so once they have tryouts, they have.
What are they having you try out?
So they have a physical aspect to see how physical you are when it comes. Oh, excuse me. When it comes to like they make you go through a physical course.
And what's that like? Break it down for us.
It's different every time. I feel like
What did you go through?
So because I went through it during COVID, I didn't go through the physical portion. It was more mental and making sure I knew what was going on. Like so I didn't really have a TDY process. My TDY was within the platoon because my TDY class was literally 2 people.
Wow.
It was just me and another soldier, and I was the one.
Is that because it was during COVID?
Absolutely. It was very difficult to actually recruit soldiers from other companies and other battalions because, everyone was afraid, like, they don't want to mix, like, let's say another soldier, we don't even know if he had COVID, come into the platoon and stuff like that. So I had to get tested before. And it was just, honestly, everything happened for a reason. And, my determination, I really just wanted to try out to see if I can, challenge myself and be able to make it. And it was hard, but I made it in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What else did they put you through in those 9 months?
In the 9 months, for me, it was more like a year. I didn't pass until like a year later, obviously because of COVID. But, since I didn't have a separate TDY class, I basically was enrolled already in the platoon, taking TDY, I guess you could say.
So tell me, what does it mean to you to be a part of this platoon?
To be honest, it's very personal for me because my experience was between me and the unknowns, between me and the mission. The mission for us is to make sure that anything that happens in the plaza is protected. We create that sacred space for the unknowns. So when the public comes and watches us on the plaza, we make sure that it's guarded. There's no noise happening because it is a sacred place and because it's national shrine. So Yeah, for me, it's more personal. I think that my connection wasn't with the platoon. It was more so for the unknowns. I think that's what made me continue in the tomb. It is very like not rigorous, but like mentally hard because they have a perfection standard, but they want you to strive for perfection, right? So our line 6 in the Sentinel's creed, which is our creed overall,
Right.
it's line 6 is my standard will remain perfection. My standard will remain perfection. And basically we have a set standard, but we exceed the standard by trying to be perfect. And yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs, especially being the only female in the platoon with guys. But at the end of the day, what made me keep going was just the love for the mission. I definitely didn't understand the mission at first. I knew what the unknown was about. I knew what the mission was about technically,
Right.
but I didn't really fall in love with it until a few months in, and me falling in love with just guarding it and having that passion of, you know, that connection between the unknowns.
Being the only female in your platoon, are you treated differently?
Absolutely, and I think that goes without saying. That goes with every female in the Army. I think that regardless of gender, soldiers will say that gender doesn't exist in the military because we're all treated the same. But at the end of the day, there is a female and a male, and
Right.
regardless of what any male soldier says, at the end of the day, there's a female and a male, and women just get treated differently just by default. And
Right.
unfortunately, some get treated better, some get treated worse. And it was difficult for me at first because I had to earn everyone's respect, but it was
For
very
sure.
tiring because it was like constant. Like no matter what I did, I had to like
Constantly being tested.
I had to like constantly prove myself.
yourself,
No
yeah.
matter, and if I made one mistake, it's like back to square one. But honestly, I don't think I would take back anything that I wanted to, or I wouldn't take back anything that I did
Right.
because the soldiers that tested me over and over again and that wanted to basically prove myself to them that I'm, top tier
Right.
and up
That you
to the
belong.
standard that I belong. We're all like family now. So
That's great.
yeah.
How has this training, this discipline, carried over to your personal life?
I can definitely say physical. Whenever it comes to like working out or I just think it's very easy when it comes to once you have a plan. In my opinion, it's very easy to be disciplined because I've just been so disciplined. So I've balanced out like when it comes to the mission from 9 to 5 or no, excuse me, from like 8 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the mission. Like at the tomb, it's all about the mission. We make sure everything is executed to the top, how it's supposed to be, on time.
Right.
No minute less, no minute more.
No mistakes.
Everything is on time, and we all. That's one thing I could say about the platoon, that we are super. We don't let people slack. Like we're all like carrying each other's weight. Like we all make sure everything is on point. But
all hands on deck.
yeah. So for me, I think that. I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
What was the question? Sorry.
How has this discipline carried over to your personal life?
So with that being said, with the whole platoon and being all hands on deck, it's been 3 years, so I'm able to know what discipline looks like, and I can transfer that. Like, let's say I have a goal set, like when it comes to finances, or when it comes to like working out, or when it comes to eating, or when it comes to having fun, or when it comes to personal interactions with people. I can definitely say with confidence that my job has definitely helped me with that, and know like when it's okay to say no, when it's okay to say yes, when it's okay game time. It's
right. It's great.
Yeah. Like I'm very grateful for that. I definitely learned that at the tomb. Being very, what is that word? Articulate? Yeah. Being articulate at home and with my friends, and I'm very big on communication. I'm very big on communication. I talk about how I feel because being in the military definitely showed me that communication is key, especially as a woman. Men will not understand. No matter if they tell you that we're the same person, or whether we're all soldiers at the end of the day,
Right. There's still a difference.
they're not gonna understand what women come from when it comes to like how we come across. If I come across with attitude, but I'm not trying to, they're gonna be like, dang, she's spicy, or dang, like,
They're
I don't
taken
know.
back.
Yeah, they'll take it in a
Right.
different way that, so I definitely learned how to like communicate better and be able to have everyone understand so we can have a good environment for sure. Yeah.
Speaking of that environment, what makes your platoon different? What makes it stand out from other platoons?
We are
How many of you are there, first of all?
So we're infantry-sized platoon, or I guess squad, you could say. So if you Google an infantry-sized platoon, it's about like. So
Give me a number.
So because of OPSEC, I can't really display like how many people are in the platoon just for security reasons. But if someone searches up how big is a infantry platoon is, it'll be on Google, and that's how much we would have people in the platoon.
Got
and
it.
that's on a like if that's we're good on manning. But
What makes you guys special?
we are basically the president's escort kind of thing. Like our unit is the backbone of the army kind of thing. Like we are.
Break that down. What does that mean?
So we are the army's. How do I explain? We are the face of the army. So whenever someone comes to the old guard, we have the United States Army drill team. We have the United States Continental Color Guard. We have United States Army caisson. We have the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We have multiple platoons that showcase what the Army is about, and people from across the world will come and see how disciplined, how respectful, how structured we are as the Army. Like, we're the most viewed, like, our platoon is the most viewed in the entire United States Army. Like, no one will see the Army more than they come see us, come see the United States Army drill team.
Got it.
Or et cetera. So, yeah. We're basically the face of the Army, pretty much. And that just goes for the entire old guard.
So your unit, basically, you're saying you guys are like the front facing, right? You guys are the most visible.
Yes.
Right? I'm assuming that you guys represent when a president comes from a different country. You guys are, and they're being shown the tomb, and you guys are there.
Mm-hmm. So basically, when it comes to an ambassador that comes from different countries, because we have a lot of that, they tend to lay wreaths to show respect to the United States, and they tend to be a part of the wreath ceremony and lay the wreaths for the unknowns. And usually the officers and the higher enlisted will take care of that ceremony. Sometimes the senior enlisted will take over briefs, or one of the younger enlisted will listen in and see how we talk to higher profile individuals respectfully, professionally, and how we handle ourselves as the face of the Army. So,
what's your day-to-day like?
So my day-to-day, I go to PT in the morning.
What is that?
So, okay.
What's PT?
So because of OPSEC, I can't really tell you guys exactly what we do in times and stuff like that. But
give me an idea. What is it?
Yeah.
It's like a training.
So in the morning we wake up as a squad. So we have 3 reliefs. Each relief is designed by height. So first relief is the tallest relief. Second relief, which is the relief that I was in, is the middle height, and the third relief is the shortest. And shortest would be 5'8", 5'7", 5'8". Right now we've been a little bit more accepting with heights because there has been soldiers that not shoulders. There has been soldiers. Excuse me. There has been soldiers that have given their all to the unknowns and the mission, and we want those people here. We want those people a part of the mission. We don't want, just because you're tall, that doesn't mean that you're all about the mission and you're going to excel and represent the Army. So
real quick, what is the mission?
The mission. So our mission is hold on, let me think. There's actually a verbiage of how to say the mission. So our mission, we are responsible for maintaining the highest standards and traditions of the United States Army and this national shrine, whose mission or like
Got it. Keep it holy, basically, right? Keep it sacred.
Our mission is to prevent any desecration or disrespect prevented or towards the tomb of the unknown soldier. So directed towards. Wow, I'm stuttering crazy, but
okay.
yeah. Our mission is to prevent any desecration or disrespect directed toward the tomb of the unknown soldier by the public.
Got it.
And we maintain that national shrine as the national shrine. So,
does your platoon only cover the tombs, or do you also do other national monuments?
Our sole mission is the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Got it.
There
are other platoons that do other monuments.
So not other monuments. It's just the cemetery.
Got it.
For example, Quezon does ceremonies like funeral services. There's the casket platoon where they carry caskets.
Right.
There's the casket platoon. There's the firing party where whenever there's a funeral service and you hear the gunshots.
Yeah.
We also have that as well.
Okay, very cool.
And then, so it just continues. Like everybody has their mission in the old guard, and our sole mission is just to protect the tomb of the unknown soldier, and that's our primary mission.
How big is that land? How big is that tomb?
It's not that big, actually.
No,
it's not that big. I mean, it is definitely bigger than any
normal cemetery.
Normal cemetery, like the tomb of the unknown soldier is very separate from other tombstones, but. There's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the World War I, which is like the big.
Are they split by wars or is it all together?
No, they're split by wars. Yeah, absolutely. There's there's 3 crypts on the plaza. There's World War II.
I've never been. I have to go.
Oh yeah, you do. It's actually it's so powerful in the sense of like
the energy, right?
Yeah, everybody's quiet. Everybody's respectful. Everybody's like, if anybody hears each other talking, they'll be like, shh, stop talking. Because it's that sacred. It's like, so you'll feel it so on the winter is every hour on the hour, there's a guard change. And then in the summer it's every 30 minutes.
Okay.
So whenever you see a guard change, you're going to see how powerful it is and how everybody is very respectful about it because
tell me why, what's important about that guard change? What happens? What occurs?
Like I said, we are the face of the Army, and we are the standard when it comes to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and our mission. And our uniforms, crispy. Our walk, crispy. The way we talk to the public, crispy. Like everything is on point because we have to be that. We represent the unknowns. We represent the Army, like I said. But whenever we go out in the public,
right,
we are.
There's a set standard that you're keeping up.
Yeah, we're exceeding the standard at that point, and that's why everybody respects it because there's no falling behind. There's no
no man left behind.
No, not man left behind. No? There's no like how do I say
bullshit.
Yeah, there's no
room for
there's
shenanigans.
No room for mistakes,
right.
And people respect that. People will be quiet and listen and make sure because it's such. And honestly, there's actual people that come because, like, especially like grandparents or mothers or fathers that have had their grandparents or their father and mother that had fought in World War II and Vietnam.
They're very emotional.
And they don't know who was buried there, but they represent their grandparents and their parents,
Right.
So people will go and they'll just mourn for their loved ones. And that actually makes me emotional when I'm walking out there in the plaza.
So I've seen a video of you, a really cool video, where you're holding a rifle.
Yeah.
And you're doing a bunch of cool things with that rifle. You're spinning it, you're tossing it around. Break that down for us. What is that? What is that called? And why do you guys do that?
So I have, because I became a Sentinel, after training, you become a Sentinel. And as a Sentinel,
what does that mean to be a Sentinel?
So becoming a Sentinel is basically earning the tomb identification badge, which is what I'm wearing right here. After training 6 to 9 months, you have the opportunity to earn that badge, right? Once you've earned it, that means that you became a Sentinel. If you don't earn it, then you don't have the the rightful honor to become a sentinel, if that makes
Got
sense.
it. Yeah, it does.
It just basically you serve the tomb, but that's it. Like no one really knows that you serve the tomb but yourself, you know?
Got it.
And I think that's actually very special for all the sentinels that have passed and became sentinels, because we worked our butt offs to make sure that we get to there. But what it means is we actually have a tomb identification badge board, which in quarters, if any of you guys go to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Washington D.C., we down in quarters we have a badge board where all the sentinels that have passed training from 1958 till today, all the
You guys are honoring them basically.
Yes, and I think it's very special. Some people might disagree, but I think it's very special to honor those that have passed training, and
For sure.
Because we all worked hard. Even those that didn't pass training, we all worked hard for it.
So break down the job of a sentinel and that whole routine with the rifle.
So our sole purpose as a sentinel, once you pass training, is to train your next replacement, to train the next perfection soldier to be, so when you leave, you can trust that they can continue to uphold the standard.
Basically your legacy.
Yeah, pretty much. And that goes to every sentinel. Like our responsibility is to make sure that the next soldier is trained to the highest perfection standard, right?
Got it.
And then, so right now, as sentinels, you have to be an NCO, which is like a sergeant or above, or corporal or above, to be able to change the guard. What that means is when you change the guard, you're basically changing the walker that's coming on and the walker that's coming off, which is what we do. We do a weapons inspection, and we're checking for any deficiencies on the weapon, make sure that it's completely clean when it comes to no rust. There's no faulty anything that happens in, like,
is that what that process is? Is that what you're doing during that process?
So when we're doing the weapons inspection as an NCO, my job is to make sure that I am changing out the guard to make sure that the new guard is coming on properly. And within that changing of the guard, I am making sure that the weapon that they're bringing onto the plaza is to perfection, just like us. We make sure that there's no rust on them. We make sure that the rifle is still fully functional. The rifle is not loaded, but it is fully functional. So if we were able to, need to, load it, like, that's not going to happen ever. But
for sure.
Or not ever. I can't say that, but
rare.
If it needs to happen, which is has to be approved by Congress, it's fully functional. That's all I have to say. It's fully functional.
Got it.
And yeah. But now, as a sentinel walker, I was both. So I was a changer and I was also a walker. My primary job as a sentinel, I was a walker for a really long time. I think that my connection between as a walker and a changer, my experience, I feel more passionate about walking the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier because I am on the mat walking through the rain, the snow, the heat, storms, blizzards, everything like that creates, because you're so used to, working 26-hour shifts, it's just like it just creates that passion because you're out there and like everybody
26-hour shifts.
Yes, 26-hour shifts. Yeah, that is our shifts. We work 5 days. Our work schedule is 5 days, and day 1, day 3, and day 5 we work 26-hour shifts, and day 2, day 4 we have our comp days. But technically, as a trainee, comp days does not matter. Like, we are still going back to work to make sure our uniform is top tier. Our standard, we're still training to become the sentinel that we're supposed to be.
Right.
And yeah, so basically there's no sleep when you're a trainer, when you're a trainee. But yeah, as a responsibility as a sentinel, we're there with the trainee and still losing sleep because we're doing this for the unknowns, because we're representing the Army, because we're representing not only the Army but ourselves and the tomb. So yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's difficult though. So
I could imagine.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about being a soldier and what you do?
I think it's different for everyone for sure, because as a woman, for me, it was definitely difficult having a uniform that doesn't look like every other guy or every other male soldier.
What's the difference?
I had curves. like every soldier, every male soldier was like a square.
Got you.
And I had the curves. I had, you know, the breast. I had, you know, just the curvature of my body. It
Of a
just didn't
woman,
look.
right.
It just didn't look the same as a male soldier. It didn't look uniformed. So, you know, I struggle with that because, you know, the whole sole purpose of the Tumultuano soldier is for everything to look uniformed. But at the end of the day, if I work hard and the soldiers know that, you know, I could do the same thing as them or even better,
They respect you.
not even respect. It's more like you can uphold the standard as much as they can or even better.
Right.
And my goal was
You're
to
an
be
equal.
even better. Yeah. And even though I looked a little different, just because obviously I'm a female, yeah. And I think another thing that was difficult for me going through training was being the only female in the platoon. I think that I've harped on that before and during this interview. Being the only female was definitely difficult because
You're the only female.
let me choose my words wisely because it was difficult.
Say what you want to say, and then we can edit out what you don't want later.
Okay.
Okay.
So being the only female in the platoon definitely came with some difficulties just because I constantly had to prove myself. Like I said before, I constantly had to prove myself. I constantly had to degrade myself to make them feel good about themselves. And it kind of like made me lose myself. So I grew up as a Christian and I used to never curse. And I literally had to become worldly for them to respect me.
Right.
And I had to lose a part of myself for them to respect me. I'm super thankful that I had leadership Sergeant First Class Chelsea Porterfield that just recently retired. She was the first female. Oh my god, I forgot. Like my memory is so shot. She was the first sergeant of the guard, female sergeant of the guard, and she was my platoon sergeant at the time for like a little bit.
She was your mentor?
She was not necessarily my mentor. She was more like a guide, yeah, for sure. She was definitely a guide in making sure that the men knew how to treat women because most of the guys in the platoon have not ever worked with a woman before in the military.
And these are all 17, 18-year-old?
No, they were all old.
Okay.
They were all like mid-20s, like early 30s, but like mid-20s for sure.
Okay.
And, you know, I was definitely very young, and that's probably but I was young, but I was in a higher rank than them. Like, they were privates, and I was a specialist when I first got there. And it was just very hard because they expected me to humble myself, even though I was already humbled. But it's just like, it was just too much. Like,
how did you overcome that?
So I was the type of soldier that whatever I did, I wanted to make sure I showed them that I can still do it. Like if I got hurt, oh yeah, that doesn't hurt. I got it. If I messed up, don't worry, I'll fix it. If I like anything of that sort, I just made sure that I didn't whine, complain. I didn't do any of that nature, just so I could show strength. And I guess I earned my respect from that, but it definitely bit me in the butt. Like now that I'm out, I did my last walk on March 2023, and it was very emotional, and I'm super happy that, you know, I was able to complete my time there. But yeah.
Talk about your faith a little bit. How has that kept you grounded? How has that kept you going?
So my faith, I grew up as a church girl. I didn't really do anything crazy growing up. When I joined the military, the first 2 years, I definitely tried to not curse. I definitely tried to go to church all the time. I definitely tried to have people around me that believed in God and like have that like, you know, faithful walk with God and have that like team around me.
Right.
But then once I realized that being, you know, with God didn't help me with the soldiers that I was becoming a part of. Like, for example, you know, going to another duty station, you know, it wasn't interacting. I wasn't being respected as a woman. I wasn't, you know, especially when I was going up with the ranks, like unfortunately I had to change the way that I was more into the world, cursing more, being a little bit more aggressive, more like assertive, more dominant.
Right.
And I think that it definitely affected my character because, I ended up being a little bit more old school Army because I was raised as old school Army when I first got in. And it wasn't healthy because now this new generation Army, this I am who, new generation Army is more focused on soldiers or people that are able to be free in, their decisions and their unit and be more, I guess, healthy mentally. And it wasn't like that when I first got in. And it was very difficult to change that. But I'm very blessed to have the soldiers that I was able to train. And, yeah, we're all family now after we're all
great.
family now. I've changed, I definitely, had a lot of conversations with a lot of leadership that, now that the Army is changing to be a new Army, a new evolving Army into this new generation, I feel like, you just have to learn to adapt. And I think that because I had God in my heart, it was so easy to adapt. It was so easy to go back to my roots. And that's what I'm focusing on right now. I'm focusing on, now that I'm transitioning out the Army, I want to focus on going back into my faith, going to church consistently. And don't get me wrong, I can go to church consistently in the Army, but,
Right.
I think that it's just very, for me specifically, I know that some people can do it, but for me personally, I think it was definitely difficult for me to not curse or to curse. Or excuse me, it was difficult for me to not curse in the military, especially when that's something that like you have to be like, hey, you can't be like, hey, shut the freak up, or hey, shut up, or hey, be quiet, do better. No, you had to be like, hey, shut the F up,
Right.
do effing better. You know what I'm saying? And that's not respectful anymore, right? You have to be more like, because now you have to be more respectful with your soldiers, vice versa, whatever. But, I think that my focus on right now is going back. Like, I've been doing really good about, like, going back to my faith and being more secluded from the world because I need to focus on myself, if that makes sense.
It does. Talking you just mentioned how you have to be a little nicer nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that political?
No, I don't think it's political. I mean,
We can stay surface level.
No. It's not. I feel like everybody's entitled to their opinion when it comes to like the political aspect. But I think it's more being nicer is more adapting to the generation that we are in right now. I think that being nicer to soldiers, being nicer to people that are coming into the military definitely benefits the Army because we need people to stay in and be disciplined. We need people to like. The old ways isn't always effective. Being disrespectful isn't always effective. Being brutal isn't always effective.
Right.
Excuse me. So that's why the Army is adapting to, new methods in how to treat people better and how to, keep people safe from hazing, keep people safe from, disrespect or verbal abuse, if that makes sense. So.
It does. What role does that play within your platoon? Like, does politics have an effect on a platoon or no? Is that something that plays a role, or it's just not even there?
We definitely apply it. There, absolutely. I think the role applies to everyone. It doesn't just apply to just regular Army. It does apply to the old guard. It applies to everyone. It has to.
Right.
I mean, I feel like just because we are kind of excluded from the regular Army, we're like literally our own platoon and we have like our own ways of doing things.
Right.
But we definitely stay true. We definitely try to stay true to being respectful because that is the regulation. We make sure everything. I don't know. I think that definitely with the new soldiers coming in is definitely a different era of how soldiers coming in 2015, 2014, 2013, like definitely different than what it was before. But
Right.
it definitely applies to us still, like regardless.
Have you guys met Obama, Trump, and Biden?
Yes. So
all three?
Absolutely. Every president comes to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier to lay a wreath either on Veterans Day or Memorial Day. Technically, it would be Veterans Day.
Right.
or Memorial Day, regard of whichever. But Obama has been to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. President Obama has been to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Former President Trump has been to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and President Biden has been to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and also Vice President Kamala Harris has
Did you
been.
interact with them?
The only person I've the only person I've actually interacted with from afar was Vice President Kamala Harris. Just because their security is super tight notch that even the military soldiers or the tomb soldiers weren't able to interact with them unless it was scheduled. But a few years back, like 2017 or 2016, 2019 or 18, when former President Trump was in office, he actually came down to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and said hi to all the tomb guards. My trainer at the time, he was able to meet him, and he's actually really cool. Like probably one of the few presidents that come down and say hi to the soldiers, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So tell me, how long have you been in the Army?
7 years. This is gonna be my seventh. This is my 7th year.
How much longer do you think you'll be in the Army?
November will be my last month. November of 2023 is will be my last month in the Army.
So you're graduating.
Basically, I am. Unfortunately, it's funny because I had the opportunity to become a pilot, a warrant officer pilot. I've had, networked with officers that are up there that can really help me get to that program.
Right.
I have had the opportunity to become enlisted aide because my original MOS is a culinary specialist. So I was able to have the opportunity to cook for generals and become a chef in the military. But I turned that down just because it wasn't my passion. I don't see myself cooking for the rest of my life. And that's my opinion.
Right.
I do see people being very, very successful in that industry. And I would love to be a pilot warrant officer. That would be great. But honestly, I think that I know I have been praying a lot about my decision. And, I just believe God, I'm just trusting God in this. I'm just trusting God in this process. Like, I'm praying. I'm just, whatever. I'm open to staying in the Army. And I'm also open to getting out the Army. Like, whatever happens, happens. And right now I'm leaning towards getting out just because better money opportunity. Right. And also I've also networked with individuals that are really high in the federal government in a department that I'm trying to get into. And, they're able to help me get there,
Got you.
So, yeah.
Very cool. What's your big dream?
What do you mean?
In life, in general, what's your big dream?
That's a good question. Honestly, that's a good question because right now I'm just thinking like, I'm trying to get out the military and I'm trying to be successful within the federal government, but I'm also trying to so I've said this to like all of my friends and I've tried to like be rich fast and I've definitely made a lot of mistakes, which got me in a funk, but that's another reason why I have that motivation to get out the Army because I have the opportunity to make more money. And I think that with that, my goal is to be rich, like as in rich in the sense of like having multiple sources of income, having my Airbnb properties. I have, I don't know, like I have some goals. Whatever. I'm shy. But I feel like right now I'm not really clear about what I'm going to do right now just because my focus right now is my government job. Right. But as of right now, like that's pretty much it. Fixing my credit. Don't put that in.
If you were to meet someone, a young girl that's looking to follow your footsteps,
like to join the military?
Yeah. What advice, what nugget would you provide?
I would say if it's either your dream or if it's something that not necessarily the last choice that you have. Like let's say you have the opportunity to go to college. But if you have the opportunity that you have to go to the military, definitely join because the military at the end of the day isn't as bad as people make it seem, isn't as bad as I make it seem, because everyone has a different experience. I definitely preach network is your net worth, because I definitely learned that in other events, and that I definitely apply that to my life, because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now getting out the military with the network that I've created around me. Definitely, if the young lady wants to join the military, I definitely would recommend being true to yourself. Never change for anyone. If the way that you are is the way that you are, be who you can be, and that's it. Like, don't change for no one, and people will respect you for that. I definitely regret changing myself for someone or for guys, but at the end of the day, it wasn't even worth it, because I changed myself and I wasn't happy from who I was.
Right.
And
You gotta be true to yourself.
absolutely. And I think that's very important, because if you lose yourself, that's it. Like, you're gone. The military has taken over, and you want to make sure that when you join the military, you take advantage of the military. You cannot let the military take advantage of you, because there's so much benefits that the military has to offer. There's so much opportunities that the military has to offer that no one really knows about, and or no one really talks about, and that can help you like get ahead real quick. And that's basically the goal.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Once you're done in November, can they call you back for any reason?
Yes. If it's like absolutely emergency, so anybody that joined the military, they have an 8-year obligation. So if you join for 3 years and get out, you still have 5 years,
Right.
5 years obligation. But like, it's more like non-active duty. So it's more like, if they absolutely need you, like for deployment, or something goes down in, the United States, or there's war, something like that, they can definitely call you back for any recall. But, I do have 1 year left. And then once that year is done, then I'll be completely done.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Your platoon would never see war, right?
I can't say never,
Okay.
but right now our primary mission is just guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Got it.
There has been times where the old guard was chosen to be a part of a war, but I'm ignorant in that. Like, I don't even have information on that.
Right.
But yeah, no. As of now, no. The old guard is a non-deployable unit. So we are not deployable right now.
Got
Our
it.
main focus is ceremonial. It's a ceremonial unit. We take care of presidential ceremonies, funerals. We take care of wreath ceremonies, et cetera, et cetera.
That's great. Where can everybody find you? What's your IG? What's your Facebook? People want to ask you questions, interact with you. Where can we find you?
So I'm very private, but definitely anybody that has questions about the military could reach me at Kamille Torres 17 at Hotmail. Definitely old school, hotmail.com.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's an
So if you
oldie.
have any questions, let me know, and I'll be super completely honest. And then we can go from there. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Sergeant, it's been a pleasure having you on
Absolutely.
the podcast.
Hold on. I got a little surprise for
You got a
the
little
boss
surprise.
man. Yeah.
Oh, what you got?
okay.
What you got?
All right.
Oh,
Boss
thank you
man.
very much.
So right here is a coin that that we are given once we pass Sentinel, or excuse me, we pass
This is
what's it called?
amazing.
Training. We become a Sentinel. That coin is
Can I open it?
Yeah, absolutely.
This
Every
is
coin
beautiful.
have our badge number on it. So I'm badge number 698. And
Wow.
yeah, that's a tomb guard in front of the coin, and
I'm really honored.
silence
This
and
is
respect.
amazing.
Those coins are actually very rare in the military. Only obviously tomb guards carry it, and we're given a limited amount unless we order more. But
This is
it's very expensive to
beautiful.
order more. But yeah,
It says here, Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, silence and respect.
if you think about it,
It's powerful.
there's actually different.
Wow.
Every Sentinel has the ability to earn a coin once they passed badge test, but it's very rare to pass them out. So
I will cherish this, I promise you.
yeah, absolutely.
That's phenomenal. Thank you so much for the gift.
Yeah,
I'm like honored.
absolutely. Yeah, it's my badge number. You know what I'm saying?
That's dope. Thank you so much.
Of course.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Likewise, I'm happy to be here and sharing my story. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, guys, that was another amazing podcast. Let's give Kamille a round of applause. Sergeant Kamille, a round of applause. And thank you so much. And we'll see
I'm
you.
just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.